Hey there, it's me again, G. Michael Vasey, with another episode. So rather than have a guest today, I thought it'd be just me and you together. So make yourself comfortable, because what we're going to talk about today is haunted hotels. So I don't know about you, but when I stay at a hotel, I generally hope and expect to get a good night's sleep in a certain degree of comfort. I always pray that the couple next door doesn't decide to be too amorous and noisy, and that the guy across the hall isn't going to watch CNN at 5:30 in the morning at high volume. The room is only to sleep in, really, and therefore, having paid an exorbitant amount to sleep in it, that's actually what I expect to achieve. Of course, me being me, I habitually check the bed carefully for any signs of a bedbug infestation. That's my expectation of a hotel, and it's most likely yours. Sometimes, however, the room is already occupied, and it is you that disturbs their peace. Well, I had an interesting experience a couple of years back at a hotel I stayed in that resulted in me checking out and finding somewhere else with an unoccupied room. You see, I checked into this hotel in the Netherlands and was given a room. The room initially looked really good. It was very large and furnished in period style. It was actually in Rotterdam on the harbour. I took off my coat and began to unpack. However, I heard a sound that was a cross between a tapping and a dripping sound. It seemed to emanate from a big old closet standing in the corner. I went over to the closet and listened. But it was that sort of noise that you can never seem to trace. It doesn't seem to come from anywhere. I opened the closet door and it stopped. So thinking perhaps it was from next door or from the heating, I just resumed unpacking. But when I closed the closet, that noise started again. And by now I was puzzled, and I investigated that closet and the area of the room that it was in pretty closely. I pushed it, I rocked it, I looked inside it for a cause and explanation. Each time I went close to that closet, the sound stopped. I began to feel the hairs on my neck stand up, and it was then I decided that I couldn't stay there. I called the reception, I told them about the noise, and I said, sorry, there's no way I could put up with that all night. They said they would send someone up right away, which I thought was a bit strange. After 5 more minutes of constant clicking and knocking sounds and an increasingly strange atmosphere, I was determined to fight my case that I simply couldn't and wouldn't stay there. The hotel lady knocked on the door, peering in at first around the door. I told her about the noise, and she walked straight over to that closet, and barely 5 seconds later she said, "Yeah, I couldn't sleep with that either, sir." "You heard it then?" I asked, surprised. "Oh yes," she said. She left, promising to find me another room. Well, after waiting another 5 minutes or so in that room, I could no longer stand it, and I packed and went down to the reception. They informed me the hotel was fully booked, and they transferred me to another hotel. I asked then if the room was haunted, and I was told they did sometimes have an issue with that particular room. I was pleased to leave. To be honest, I travel a lot, or I used to before COVID-19, and I've slept in many hotel rooms, probably thousands, and only in rare circumstances have I ever had any issues. And trust me, I'm a sensitive. I see ghosts and always have done. For a while, I was an IT consultant for a big consulting firm in London, and they sent me to work at a large UK bank's IT department just outside of Manchester. I was there a few months, and I would commute up Sunday night and back home Friday afternoon like you do. I stayed in any number of hotels in Knutsford, and one in particular was haunted. Unfortunately, I no longer recall its name, but it was part modern and part older. And for most days there I was allocated a room in the modern part of the hotel, and found it really an excellent place to stay. Surf and turf was brill. On one trip, however, they gave me a room in the old part of the hotel. It was already late when I checked in, and I went straight to that room and got into bed. It was dark and oak-panelled. I didn't switch off the bedside light and kept the TV on at a low volume, as I just didn't like the feel of that room at all. It wasn't long before I kept hearing a knocking sound. On investigation, this seemed to come from behind the panelling. So I settled down once more, believing it to be heated pipes or something. No sooner had I closed my eyes than, whoosh, all the covers were pulled off my bed in one quick movement. I sat bolt upright, as you do, shocked. Now I'm sorry, but I won't tolerate this type of nonsense anymore. I got up calmly, dressed, packed, and went back to the front desk to request a room in the newer part of the hotel. Once again, there was no surprise on the part of the receptionist. She just asked me if I'd experienced something strange in a sort of nonchalant fashion while changing the room allocation in the computer. It happens, she told me. The last experience of a haunted hotel was earlier in my life when travelling with my ex-wife and kids in Scotland for a few days. We were in Inverary to take a look around and visit the old prison. It's well worth the trip, by the way, if you can manage to get to Inverary, and the old prison is also worth a look. It's a very gloomy and haunted place in of itself. We were staying at the George Hotel in the main street and booked 2 rooms. The hotel's website explains its history as follows. The present George Hotel in Inverary was originally 2 private houses completed in 1770. They were part of a project by the 3rd Duke of Argyll, started in 1744, to build a whole new town in Inverary. This was to be the first example in Scotland of a planned town. In 1776, the 5th group of Argyll ordered that the ground floor flat of each of these private houses would be made into temporary churches for the Gaelic and English-speaking congregations. These 2 churches are now covered by the public bar, front lounge and church hall. How the times have changed. In 1860, the 2 private houses were amalgamated into the George Hotel by the Clark family, in whose possession the inn still remains. Generation 7 now resides in the hotel. The present owner, Donald Clark, has carefully and sensitively restored and enhanced the bedrooms, restaurant and bars to create a unique atmosphere. Well, it has, if I may say so, a very unique atmosphere. It's a beautiful hotel. I wouldn't not stay there. But my ex-wife and twin boys were allocated 1 room, while my elder son and I took another. The twins were very taken with their room and excitedly showed me the oak panelling, portraits on the walls, 4-poster bed complete with heavy curtains, and the quaint but airy bathroom ensuite that had an old-fashioned bath sitting on 4 ornate legs. They thought it a great and funny room. I tell you, though, I didn't like it. Not at all. I was very relieved to be sleeping down the hall in the more modern part of the hotel. And our room was normal, with 2 side-by-side single beds separated by a small table and lamp. That's it. However, that night, especially in that room, I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up, and a shiver went down my spine. I put it down to a draft, at least initially. Well, we ordered dinner in the bar and enjoyed a couple of beers. We couldn't really make it late because the twins were still fairly small and tired early in the evening. Reluctantly, it was soon time to go to bed, and off we all went up the staircase. Given my earlier discomfort and 6th sense that not all was quite normal with the hotel, I was uncomfortable. But you know what? I slept like a log. Really, I did. Nothing happened at all. I was relieved. At breakfast, I remarked that my ex-wife looked like she'd had a bad night. She glared at me over tea and toast and said, "You have no idea." The twins nodded in unison. "What happened?" I asked. "Dad, there was an old man, a nasty old man in our room," said one of the twins. "Really?" I asked. Apparently they'd got into the 4-poster bed and switched on the television. After a short while, they switched out the lights, and my ex-wife said that she felt like someone was watching her. Later on, they were woken by the bedclothes being pulled from the bed, and one of the twins swore that there was an old man in the room that didn't want them there. Noises and unexplained bangs occurred throughout the night, and eventually my son pointed at a portrait that was dimly visible on the wall and said, "It's that man, Mummy." They removed it from the wall and turned it away to face the wall. Then they tried the best they could to sleep with the lights on. It wasn't much of a night's sleep for any of them by all accounts. There was a peculiar old man odour in the room too, I was told. For once, it wasn't me that experienced bizarre things. Nonetheless, I had known there was something about that room, and I had said nothing. Not that it would have made any difference, I suppose. And there you go. That's the sum total of my experience of paranormal events in hotel rooms. However, after writing about my own experiences, I started looking around for other accounts of haunted hotels, and I came upon a really good source, which was TripAdvisor and other review websites like it. And a quick read of the reviews on those websites demonstrates that perhaps I've been lucky. So, I started searching for other ghost stories during my research for a book that I wrote on the paranormal in the Czech Republic. You may have read it. It's called The Most Haunted Country in the World, the Czech Republic, and it's been quite a popular book, available in ebook and paperback. And in doing the research for that, I came across a pretty remarkable review of a Prague hotel in TripAdvisor. The Residence Green Lobster. It's a luxury 4-star hotel in Prague 1, which is right in the heart of the city, where most of the tourists go. It got a 5-star review on tripadvisor.com in 2011. The hotel is actually across the river from the old town in an area known as Malá Strana, down a cobbled street. From the outside, it looks like many Prague buildings with an ornate facade, and inside, it is luxurious with 4-poster beds, modern bathrooms, and an excellent kitchen. Despite that, the couple who wrote the review of their stay were entertained by their room's other occupant. They do say in the review that they don't actually believe in such things, but the reviewer describes how on the first night he had his face lightly stroked and woke up with a jolt. The second night his wife had a sentence whispered to her in Czech. She didn't understand and said nothing back. The third night he heard someone say, "Help!" and he and his wife both woke up to see the small cupboard in the room open. On subsequent investigation, they found that cupboard was locked shut. Their last night was most active as they both awoke at 4:30 a.m. to the sound of someone walking around and moving things about in the room directly below them. He got up to check, but all activity then stopped. Half an hour later, they awoke again to the sound of dripping water. He again checked taps in the room downstairs, but all was fine and the sink was dry, and they went back to bed and slept without another incident until the morning came and his wife could not find her phone. Well, they turned the place upside down and found nothing, until his wife went to put on her shoes and found it under her shoe. Now, if it were me, I'd be making sure that I never stayed there again. However, plainly this reviewer was made of sterner stuff than I, and finished his review saying, "All in all, we were not bothered by what went on. If anything, it added a little more character to the suite that was already amazing in our eyes. We will stay here again as we loved it, and the staff made it a joy to stay as well." Well, that's not the only account that I found, and in my book, Motel Hell, you can read many, many other accounts. I will pick one or two just to prove my case. So here's one about the Congress Plaza in Chicago, a well-known haunted location, often featured on TV and in paranormal shows, that kind of thing. It's been a Windy City icon since 1893, its website says. We also learn there that it was built in that year and featured cobbled streets, gaslights and horse-drawn carriages. It has a serious pedigree as it was built by the famous hotel developer R.H. Southgate. Peacock Alley, a celebrated feature of the new hotel, was an underground marble passageway that connected the new annex with the Auditorium Hotel. By 1908, it housed more than 1,000 guest rooms. Well, as you can imagine, it boasts an array of very famous guests, including US presidents such as Grover Cleveland, William McKinley, Teddy Roosevelt, William Howard Taft, Woodrow Wilson, Warren Harding, Calvin Coolidge, and Franklin Roosevelt. Well, with all those rooms and such a history, one might expect a few non-paying guests. And so it seems to be, being amongst the top 10 haunted hotels in America reputedly. More than a few reviews of the hotel have focused on the strange goings-on that they experienced there. For example, reviewer John Kay didn't know about the hotel's reputation until after he returned home and Googled it, but he experienced a number of eerie incidents while staying there. His wife and daughter heard a strange sound from under the bed on the first night, and on the last night they were shocked by a loud knocking sound on the headboard of their bed. He describes a creepy atmosphere in the room in which they had the feeling the whole time they were there that someone would pop out of the walls. Dan DeBraun, a journalist who stayed there, did his own investigation of the place after his friend told him that he saw a shadow-like figure standing by his bed when he woke up in the middle of the night. He said that he woke up and saw the figure for a second or two before it dissolved away. He isn't the only one drawn to the hotel by its reputation. Jess B and her husband also went there just to investigate the hauntings, and room 441 in particular. We chose to stay there because we read up on haunted hotels and wanted something haunted and scary for our anniversary. Well, it's definitely old, creepy, outdated and smells, but we are not really sure if it's really haunted or not. We did stay in room 441, and I swear I felt the bed get kicked twice the first night, but my husband assured me it was all in my head, since he didn't feel it. Another reviewer booked into the hotel by his employer was a bit more convinced. All I know is it's definitely haunted, he says in his review. He experienced the curtains moving from side to side as if someone was peeking at him, and his friend heard someone or thing whistling in the room when she was in the bathroom. It happened 3 times, and each time when she investigated, no one was there. Another TripAdvisor user posted their take on the hotel on making their first visit to Chicago. They were lured to the hotel by the cheaper cost of the rooms, but were disappointed by it on arrival. I must admit their description is pretty dire. Here we go. We walked into the lobby of this hotel and thought how beautiful it looked. We were very excited. However, there were very few people working the desk and check-in took a long time. Finally, after getting our key, we went up to the room. Since the lobby looked fantastic, we thought our room would be too. However, as we unlocked the door to our room, we were very disappointed. It was very dimly lit with one light bulb in the middle of a very high ceiling. The wallpaper was coming off the walls and the curtains were falling off their rods. The carpet in the room looked filthy and we were afraid to walk around in our bare feet. The bathroom looked like it was updated, but the tiles on the floor were cracked. They had tried to glue the pieces back together, but had an abundance of glue that was hard and dry over their repair work. The closet where we kept our suitcases had paint chips all over the floor. My wife dropped her brush behind a dresser. When I went to move the dresser, you could tell it hadn't been moved in a while. We found what appeared to be some form of medicine capsules, snack bags, and written notes from someone's business trip. They offered no free Wi-Fi, and you had to pay extra for internet. The restaurants in the hotel were way overpriced, even for a simple breakfast. We opted to eat elsewhere. The review then goes on to say that only after they had stayed there did they discover the reputation of the hotel for ghosts and paranormal activity. Despite that, their stay was punctuated by creepy phenomena. The first night, while in the shower, my wife and daughter heard a strange sound from under the bed. I checked, saw nothing, and laughed it off. The last night of our stay, there we were in bed, and it was very quiet. All of a sudden, we heard a knocking sound on our headboard of our bed. To this day, I cannot explain what happened. I had the feeling the whole time we were there that someone would pop out of the walls. It was that eerie. The one elevator had a 13th floor, and the other elevator was numbered 22, 33, 44, 66. It made no sense. After getting home and reading about the hotel, there were other strange events as well. I'm glad we didn't know about them ahead of time. Another reviewer shows the disdain for the hotel overall, rating the hotel as terrible based on their experiences. She was particularly upset by the smell in the room, texting her boyfriend that the room smelled like death. Little did I know just how right I was, she says. I would have requested a different room, but I was only there for one night, so decided to suck it up and deal with the situation. After a business dinner and working in the lobby with a colleague, I returned to my room around midnight. I got ready for bed, locked the door with the chain lock, filled up a water bottle and placed it next to the lamp and telephone on the nightstand next to me, sent my last text 1:08 a.m, and then went to sleep. I immediately had nightmares of ghosts trying to enter reality by trying to possess my mind and using my room's phone and electricity as a portal. I woke up at 2:40 a.m, screaming, only to find that the lamp next to me had been switched on, the lampshade turned almost upside down, and the water bottle completely empty with the cap still on. I have never been so scared in my life. I picked up my phone and searched for nearby hotels to transfer to, but not more than 30 seconds passed before my phone, plugged in, switched itself off. So I'd have left my room and hotel altogether, but at this point I was simply too terrified to move. I'm not religious, but the only way I survived the night was by staying awake and praying. I did fall asleep a last time from 5 till 7 a.m, only to have another nightmare. This time it was about just one ghost, a male, luring me over to the window. I have never been so eager to leave a hotel before, but this place is so haunted I strongly discourage anyone from staying there. The next day I told my boss about my experience, since she was staying in the hotel as well, but in a different wing. She told me that she'd had almost this same exact nightmare about the window. We looked up the hotel to then read about all the deaths that have happened there. So freaky. I would have written this review sooner, but honestly, I don't want to think about it too much since it still gives me the chills. Just to give you a more complete picture, here's a more general review. The first room we got was absolutely awful. The hallway looked like something out of a horror movie. The room just made me feel gross. The second room was better, but it had a bathroom smaller than most closets. The haunted hotel was an absolute labyrinth, and even following the signs couldn't help us find an ice machine. Everything is outdated. Broken doorknobs, rooms without smoke detectors, janky walls, carpets older than me, room fans, heaters older than my mum. Hopefully people really read these reviews because I sincerely regret just looking at the rating. And finally, here is another reviewer who went there to experience the ghosts and room 441, but was a tad disappointed by it. All in all, not a hotel for the faint-hearted, it would seem. To me, it's not so surprising that hotels are often haunted and that people have unexpected encounters with unwanted guests and visitors. The reason why I say that is because paranormal activity often seems to occur on the edge of something, in places where there is significant change going on, or where things are transitory. And I can't imagine a more transitory environment than the hotel, with comings and goings of all kinds of different people, doing all kinds of things, perhaps, in their rooms. Who knows what people get up to in those hotel rooms. But certainly, it's a transitory environment in which many psychic disturbances can be left as impressions for sensitive people to pick up. This is why I always try to pick newer hotels, more modern hotels, well lit, with smaller rooms where I can feel safe and secure, because I do see things quite regularly, and I'd rather not wake up in a strange place and have that kind of experience. I'm sure you wouldn't either. Well, I'd like to give you a couple more examples of haunted hotel reviews that I found. Here's a really good one. It's the Holiday Inn Express in Leeds, in England. This 400-room hotel looks like a standard and fairly modern Holiday Inn Express, and it has pretty much average reviews, but one of the reviews claims, "This hotel is great value for money and is ideally situated in the centre of Leeds, and no more than a 20-minute walk to most places that you will want to visit. The bar area is fine, the breakfast cooked, and the basic fare that you would expect. The rooms are of ample size, and the bed was very comfortable. Service from the hotel team was great throughout." So far, so good? Well, no 5-star review, I'm afraid, due to the ghost. At 5:30 a.m, the lights came on, and the TV switched itself on, playing at full volume. Electronic glitch or poltergeist? Stay there and let me know, please. The reviewer ends with, "Be warned, those of you brave enough to book this room." Here's another review from the Flamingo in Vegas. Apparently, it also has ghostly occupants, as a TripAdvisor reviewer describes. "My husband and I just stayed in room 28154 in the Flamingo. The entire night was filled with scary events. First, the light bulb blew up, but actually did not, because when we turned it on again, it worked just fine. I saw a man's figure in our room gliding past our bed at 1:30 a.m. The remote dropped to the floor. When we turned on the light, it was on the table. The bathroom door opened and closed by itself at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. We heard tools dropping in the venting system. We moved rooms the next morning. It was exhausting. Our new room on the 7th floor was great, and the rest of our stay was wonderful." Then there's the famous Overland Hotel and Saloon in Nevada, which is on the edge of the desert, on the southeastern border of Nevada. Many say that ghosts reside in this hotel, particularly in room number 10. And on April 26, 2014, the Ghost Adventures team from the Travel Channel spent an evening there to contact and interact with its resident spirits and ghosts, airing an episode on June 21, 2014, dedicated to the Overland spirits. Again, TripAdvisor is a great source of accounts of the haunting there. One guest who stayed in a room opposite room 10 claims he could hear heavy breathing coming from the hallway, but a quick investigation showed the corridor to be empty. He decided to take a peek into room 10. "As I walked through the room, I felt a strange presence as I walked through to the bedroom, as if somebody was watching me. I turned around to feel someone playing with my hair. I thought, it's nothing, just forget about it. Until I decided to stay in room 10 for the night. I thought it would be nice, as the room was decorated nicer than my room. Instead, I woke up to a dark shadow hovering above the bed I was sleeping on. I couldn't move. I felt like I was paralyzed. So, if you ever stay in room 10, God save your soul." Others took such things in their stride, and a couple gave a glowing review of the place, stating that a bit of weirdness with some dresser drawers opening the same way after being closed and unused, but what's a few ghosts among friends. Another guest reported a poltergeist problem. "My brother and I were on a road trip from Montana to Vegas and Phoenix, and decided to stop in Pioch to grab some dinner and try our luck at some slots. After some lengthy conversation with a very pleasant local woman, we decided to follow her advice and check the prices for the night at the Overland Hotel. We met the night clerk, a Nevada cowgirl, who was more than eager to visit with the two of us, Montana cowboys, about the town. It is wild and rugged with a mining history and lots of things to see and do in the area. She was a clever gal. She suggested that we stay in the hotel that night and seemed adamant about giving us room number 10. When I said we might look around some more, she quickly honoured our military service with a discount for room number 10. When I jokingly asked her, "Why room number 10? What's up with it?" she flashed the foreshadowing wicked grin and replied, "It's a mini suite with 2 separate rooms. Perfect for 2 rowdy cowboys like yourselves." We thought that was a pretty cool compliment, and the price seemed good for the extra space. Although the room was dated with crazy orange shagadelic 70s carpet and had not been remodelled like the rest of the rooms in the hotel, we really had no complaints. That is, not until about 4 a.m. I was staying in the sub-room side of number 10, that is without a door, and my brother was in the area with the bathroom and closing door. At 4 a.m. I awoke to see a type of faint, shadowy figure in the foyer between our rooms. It moved into and around my room and then went back out. I was a little freaked and startled, but figured it was just my imagination, nothing to worry about. After all, I was really tired. Around 4:30 a.m., the door to my brother's area slammed shut, and then what sounded like a small ruckus started to happen. I was pretty tired and figured he was just moving his bags around looking for something he lost, or was just frustrated with my occasional snoring. Moments later, into my room burst my brother, completely freaked out and clearly upset. He said a shadowy being came into his room, slammed the door shut, and then attacked him by holding him down on his bed with a pillow to the point that he couldn't even breathe, let alone yell for help. He said he struggled and tried everything to break free but couldn't until it finally stopped and was gone. I heard that ruckus, and it was real. He was scared to death. My brother went through Navy SEAL training and isn't scared of anything, but this time he was really scared. Believe what you want to. I don't expect you to believe me or my brother. Room number 10 in the Overland Hotel is absolutely haunted. We've debated about going back with some forensic cameras and EMF meters, as we're both photographers. The staff was courteous and polite. The room was a bargain. But we definitely got more than what we bargained for staying there. I'd recommend one of the newer remodeled themed rooms. They're very clean and nice. There is obviously an underlying sinister reason why room number 10 hasn't been remodeled yet. I'd avoid staying in room number 10. Another visitor also got more than they bargained for. The room was cheap and the staff nice, but his medications started flying across the room as he unpacked them. He finished his review saying he'd never believed in ghosts before. These days, a hotel that has a reputation as haunted is often a sought-out location. Many hotels that gain the reputation organise ghost tours and the like, cashing in on their paranormal reputation. The paranormal can be big business, and for a hotel, a rundown hotel with a poor track record of service, rumours of being haunted can really help with the finances. Interesting, although there are many reviews of hotels that include strange happenings and experiences, they do remain in the minority. Many hotels I researched for the book had literally thousands of normal reviews, and perhaps just one or two in which some scary experience was mentioned. It seemed that most people stay at hotels without experiencing anything abnormal, even when the hotel has a reputation for it. Also noticeable to me was that often the hotel didn't have a great reputation overall, being run down, dirty, and with surly staff. Maybe that's the kind of place ghosts like to hang out. Or maybe these reviews are placed to create some mystique to an otherwise run-down business. Despite that thought, some of the reviews that I came across are really quite compelling, documenting poltergeist and traditional haunting type phenomena. I know that I've had a few strange and scary experiences in hotel rooms over the years. These were unexpected. I didn't look for them, didn't seek them out. They were always unwanted. Some of you seek out such experiences. Good luck. You're welcome to them. I'd like to read for you one of my poems, and this comes from the Dilemma of Fatherhood collection. It's called The Face of Silence. The face of silence has pursed lips, reacted to sordid video clips. Inside is still, be still. Outside is all about steely will. The face of silence is deeply wrinkled, an ageless piano gently tinkled. Stillness rippled still, empty silence to fill. The face of silence is a bore, one unsightly red eye sore. Be still, be still. Staring from my windows, the face of silence is no more. Thunderously loud to the core, be still, take your fill. Deafeningly loud, but be still. In the silence, in the emptiness, thunderous applause, in the stillness, in the void, explosive sounds, ironic, but still, truth. You know, if you really like ghost stories, then you'll love my site, myhauntedlife2.com. It's a site where readers, like yourselves, can submit their own stories, and we put them up. A new story pretty much every day. If we run short of a story or two, then I go do some research usually and put up a piece about a particular location, haunted hotel, hospital, that kind of thing, from the internet. Please, go and visit myhauntedlife2.com. That's myhauntedlife2 as in as well, as opposed to the number 2, and see what you think. And if you feel like it, do leave your Do leave a story or an experience that you've had with the paranormal there. Another thing that you can do, of course, is take a look at my many books. I collect stories and I do research on things and phenomena like black-eyed kids, poltergeist, hauntings, etc. And I've written many, many books, some of which have been quite successful. Please do take a look. And finally, might I ask you to support my activities, this podcast, my websites, my writings, my music, my poetry, by popping over to Patreon and looking to see if you might like to become a VIP. My name's G. Michael Vasey, and this has been another episode of my podcast, The Magical World of G. Michael Vasey. There really is magic. You just got to keep your eyes open for it. Have fun, and do listen in again. Please do like or share this podcast and tell people about it. Many thanks. Goodbye.
And then I thought of you some more.